Hello, Rochelle. Hello, Macie.
Hi.
Welcome to Thailand. Please introduce yourselves to our audience. Let them know who you are and what brought you here today.
I'm Macie, and I am in Thailand for stem cell treatment for an eye condition that I was born with called Optic Nerve Hypoplasia.
And you brought your mom?
And I brought my mom.
Yep, and I'm Rochelle, her mom, and this is our fourth trip for stem cells, and I'm here just for support now because she's older. Mm-hmm. Didn't need me, but came anyway.
I did need you, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, so you mentioned it's not your first treatment.
Mm-hmm.
You two went to China in 2008, 2010, 2012, and that's also where we all also met for the first time. So take us back to 2008, both of you probably, as a mother and then also as the patient. Explain the time back then and what made you decide to come to China of all places to gain access to stem cell therapy?
Okay, I'll do that one. Yeah. So, well, if you go back, I guess, to the very beginning was, I was told when she was born that she would never see, and not to feel bad about it because she would not know the difference because she would never know sight, which really can mess up a person. So throughout the years, I just kept looking for anything or something. And when the internet came out, it became way more apparent that we would have access to information that we never had before. So after years and years of looking, at about 15, I think you were maybe,
Mm-hmm.
I found the first person who had been treated with stem cells. And when I saw that, I jumped all over it, plus a paper that I read from a Dr. Chen, I think, at Stanford, who had done regenerative medicine on a frog with optic nerves, of all things but a frog. And it worked, and so that started the path. And did a year of research before we decided to make the final step to go. Talked to doctors from Portugal, from the UK, the United States. I'm trying to think if there was another one, but we talked to doctors all over, and finally it was the doctors in our own country of Pittsburgh who said, or our own country of the USA, but in Pittsburgh, who said that the worst thing would happen would be nothing. It's a blood transfusion, and if you can afford to go, you should do it. And so that's when we decided to make the step to go.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So Macie, were you part of the decision-making process?
Yeah, absolutely. During the research process, Mom left me out of that process only because she didn't want me to get my hopes up. We weren't sure what we were going to find with the research that was out there and talking to doctors and different things like that. And so, so for the research process, I wasn't as involved. But once she had kind of done all that research, she came to me and asked if I wanted to go. And spending my entire life not realizing how visually impaired I was, I'd always been taught that, my disability wasn't necessarily a part of me, and that I could do anything. I could be anything I wanted to be. That I guess I just didn't know any different. And so I thought, what do we have to lose? There's hope, and that's all we need, is just a little bit of hope. That I think my biggest goal was I wanted to drive, because I knew that would be, especially in the United States, having a car helps you be very independent, to go to work, to have a family, to drive. So for me, that was really important. And the worst thing that could happen was nothing. So we had hope. And
yeah, so with that was kind of funny. When they told me she would never know the difference, I didn't want to keep telling her, you can't see that, or that's because you can't see, it's because you can't see. So we let her bump into things, and we tried to create that blind world being normal for her. So what was really hard was when it was time to get a driving permit, she comes up to me and she goes, okay, I'm 15, I'm ready for my driving permit. And that's when it was like, oh, how do I tell her, she's not going to drive? And so that's why I didn't really want her to be a part of the researching, of talking to doctors. Because if, sometimes with everything, right, you hit a roadblock. and you have to move on, or you hit a brick wall. So my son helped me kind of navigate through some of those roadblocks if we were to hit any, because I didn't want her to have her hopes destroyed. And so then once we kind of got that final okay from talking to the doctors in America, it was like, okay, now I'm going to be like, hey, this is what we found. This is what we can do. Let's go for it. And so that, you know, I didn't have to do that blow of you're not going to drive. Mm-hmm. So thank goodness I never had to say that.
Yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Yeah,
spoiler alert.
You do have a driver license.
I do. Yeah, I drive, and it's very liberating. And I go to work, and I was able to go to school, and it's allowed me so much freedom to be independent, and take some of the pressure off of, you know, my family of having to care for me and do all that. So that was a big part of it. And then, you know, once we went in 2008, and I had so much improvement, at that point, it was kind of like the gate opened, and, you know, my body accepted the stem cells really well, and, you know, we didn't know how much I would get. And so around about a year and a half later, it was almost like an itch again to go back, you know, knowing that it's there, knowing that there's hope when you've been told all your life that there's no hope.
And so it did work for you?
It did. It worked really well for me. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, within the first 3 days, the nystagmus really slowed down. And then I think it was in 5 days, you went from reading like 1.5 inches of your face to
a little bit further out. Yeah.
Arms stretched out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pendulum improvements, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Calms the nerves.
It did. I think that is the key.
The
nystagmus is something that really hinders my vision, because my eyes are just constantly moving. And so when it calms that down, I'm able to focus more. So, and it was really neat. I think it was in 2009, or maybe it was in the beginning of 2010 in the wintertime, but my mom and I were leaving the high school, and it was snowing. And I had never seen snow fall before. I had seen snow, you know, because it's white on the ground, but I'd never seen it fall. And we were rushing out of the school, and I had to stop for a minute, and I could see it. And my mom was like, "What are you waiting for? Why are you standing in the middle of the, you know, like, get in the car?" And I was like, "The snow's falling." And she's like, "I know it's falling. What are you talking about?" And so it was little moments like that.
She was like, "Yes, Mom, but I've never seen it fall."
Yeah, I've never seen it fall. So
at that point, I'm like, well, take your time.
Yeah.
I felt so bad. The things that we take for granted. So it was seeing snow fall. And then I remember when you were like, that's what a blade of grass looks like. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
When we were out in the lawn.
Yep.
And so a blade of grass, snow falling, the little things that we don't think about.
Yeah. So getting those little miracles that just kept me going, and they would, you know, build that fire to come back again and see what, you know, how much more I could get for stem cells.
Speaking of fire, it's 2008, right?
Yeah.
It's 2025. It's almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So looking back as a mother, as family members, and I also do remember that some families did get huge backlash of, what? You're taking your child to Asia for innovative, back then, highly criticized care, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about this emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, that was really hard, because we did agree to go on the national television show, and there's a doctor in Los Angeles who is a proclaimed himself as the expert in ONH. And they had him there basically ripping me up. I was a bad mom. I was doing snake oil medicine, all from a country that didn't want to help us. So it was really hard to take. And I'm a pretty positive person, so I didn't give them much credit. It was like, I'm not impressed by you. One, you don't even want to see my daughter because I'm going to take her. And two, you said you would never even go into China. Well, how do you know if you've been there? Like, he didn't come with anything. It was all just fluff. And so, and he didn't know that I had done the research. He didn't even ask me. So with that, I was just kind of like, I'm not going to put my daughter in harm's way. I'm not that kind of person. You can call me that, but that doesn't mean anything. So I'm not going to give you any of that power. And I believe in transforming some of those bad things into positive. And we do have good doctors in America, but they're suppressed. And so when you dig and you find them, they're more than willing to help out. They just know that their hands are tied and they can't do anything. And so when he was like, I read through the protocols that you sent me, I told him what they were doing. And he flat out said, he goes, I just don't know if they're doing a high enough amount in a short amount of time. But he goes, but what their protocol is and what they're doing, he goes, nothing will happen. He goes, it's a blood transfusion. She'll be fine. So he goes, if anything, he goes, a little bit might happen. But he goes, yeah, if you can afford it, he goes, I think you should go. So that made me feel right then and there that I was talking to someone sincere. He asked questions. He wanted to see what we were going to be doing. And so you just have to give validity to the people who actually care, because a lot of those people didn't care. They just don't want any, I don't feel like they want you to be successful. They want to take away your hope. And that is just so big when you're talking about a quality of life. I mean, that guy can go home and be with his family or do whatever, but I have to go home with her. And I have to see her live her life and the hopes and dreams that she has. And what can I do to give her the best quality of life possible? And it happens to be, you might have to leave the country. But we make that happen. Mm-hmm. Don't start.
Yeah. Sorry.
Emotion.
Yeah.
It's hard to talk about because, when they tell you you're a bad mom, and it's like, dude, that's all I wanted to do. Like I didn't go to school because when you have a child with a disability, then you rearrange your life. It's like, okay, so I will put any kind of professional career I want to have on hold. I'm going to be with her, and then we're just going to go on this journey together.
Yeah, and it was also...
And it's been a great life.
It's been amazing. It was also difficult for me. There was another doctor that that was talking to us from Colorado, actually, that it pulled me aside and asked, is your mom making you go? Do you feel safe? And that was just, like you were saying, when you have his hope and then you see these people who have no idea. And I also think a lot of it is fear. People don't, I think in the society we live in today, a lot of people don't do their own research and they just take somebody's word for, what something is. And so I think there's a lot of fear there where people just throw that around.
Maybe I interject and that gives you a chance to calm down emotionally, but it's nearly 20 years later. Harvard has a stem cell institute researching, right? Mayo Clinic and other big institutions are researching stem cells. And I think there has been a wind of change. Stem cell therapy is more accepted than 20 years ago. And the reason for this is you, right? You too, as well, as a shining example in the ONH community and other clients and patients that have talked to you since. So you've been certainly a trailblazer. So you can be proud of that, right? And you've seen the world also at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So today you're in Thailand, 13 years later from your last stem cell treatment. But let's shift gears for a moment.
Okay.
So I know that you're pursuing occupational therapy. You're even pursuing a doctor in that field. How has your perhaps life journey, health journey, influenced that decision to also pursue a career in this particular field?
It's influenced it completely. I think, with occupational therapy, that means we consider occupations to be anything that we do during our day or even sleeping, brushing your teeth, getting dressed, hygiene, sleeping, driving, taking care of family, all of those things. And so for me, I felt like I'd been given this miracle, this blessing of stem cells. And so this was my way of paying it forward and helping other people find meaning in their life and their occupations. And so, I'm really, it's one of the most proudest things I've done for me. And I feel like I'll be able to give back.
Sorry. Well, no, but you're the wounded healer. I think that's
be able to, sorry, I'm having a hard time. I've been given this my sight to help others. And I'm sorry,
That makes perfect sense.
yeah.
Wow. And you told me that you may be working in a school with children and students
Yeah.
who have visual impairments.
Yeah.
So much to hear for you.
And school was really difficult for me. You know, teachers and children. It was really challenging, and so I hope to be a positive influence and guidance and support for other kids who are disabled, who you know, maybe their voices aren't as heard like mine was, and thankfully I had her to help with you know, navigating school, but sometimes children don't always have that, and teachers understanding kids with disabilities, and you know, I was also fortunate that I got to do everything a normal kid would do. You know, I had my brother always with me to make sure I was safe, but I think it's important to feel purpose and feel like you also have meaning, and that you're not just constantly being cared for by others, because that's something that I've always struggled with. Having a disability is always feeling like everybody has to care for me. And so giving them that independence, giving them that purpose, like they also can contribute, is really important. So, yeah.
Right. Thank you very much for these very deep emotions and your vision.
Yeah.
We laugh a lot, but we can cry a little bit because it's been a journey. I mean, it's not been easy.
Yeah.
But we stuck with it, and I'm glad we came to Thailand. It definitely, the treatment now it's great. So much more.
It was completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you were saying, the world of stem cells has changed a lot. You know, we're on a lot of Facebook groups, and there's so many more people that are connected, and I think people are more knowledgeable, and I think people are researching a little bit more and connecting more, which is great. So.
You're right. So let's talk about this for a moment. Yes, you're right. Number one, research has progressed.
Yep.
You no longer have to fly to China, get treatments in a perhaps military hospital, which is not as pretty. You have now the chance to get next generation stem cells in a beautiful city like Bangkok, a tourism destination in a country where people speak English.
Yeah. So
why are you here? Why are you in Thailand?
Well, we're here because we knew we're you. We're here because of you. You know, in 2008, when you fly across the world on hope, and you meet people who are as authentic as you are, and caring and creating that supportive culture for people who. There's still some fear there, you know. You're in a different country. You're not with family. You know, when you see that, it's kind of a catalyst for that hope.
I don't think it's to be taken lightly, and so you do have to have that hope and trust. And because we had been with you for 3 times, that we knew we could trust you, and you have to be careful because you could end up in a country that they don't have safe guidelines. They're not following rules. I think that's out there because the medical community really hasn't fully embraced it. There's all kinds of, I'm sure, politics and business stuff that goes behind it with money and pharmaceutical companies. It's a disaster. So when you finally meet and you are with a company that cares about people, they care about their care, then those are the places that you have to go to. Not just, oh, here's a coupon for 500 million stem cells for this amount of money and da-da-da-da, whatever else. You really want to be with the people that, here's the doctor, we want to see your records, here's where you're at, here's how we think this treatment can help, here's what we do, and they have all the science behind it, and you trust them.
Yep.
And so that's why, without a shadow of a doubt, it was like, we knew where we wanted to go. But you do have to do the research, and you have to go with the companies you can trust.
Yep.
So... which is why we went with your company, because we knew we could trust you.
And you had sent me all the research and the information that we needed. How many stem cells, what kind of stem cells, where do they come from, how are they processed? So you provided all of that information, which for us was great because then we were able to.
And with the new technology of making neurons, that wasn't there before, so that was good.
Yeah, well, thank you for the flowers, and that's correct. Nowadays. Multipotent stem cells have always been around, but also now you can have access to multipotent stem cells with pluripotent characteristics, and that is the key in developing neurons and other types of cells. So yes, the stem cell or stem cells have progressed, and your last stem cell treatment is 13 years ago. So
Yeah.
things have developed, and it's very hard to stay on
Yeah.
top of the developments. So
Right.
That's why.
Which was great because sometimes the axons in the nerves would already finish developing at like 16 or 17. So that was another draw too, was if these are creating neurons, I mean, that's even better.
Yeah.
So it was just like, wow, this is amazing.
Well, and the type of treatment now, it's just an IV, which
Yeah,
compared to
no-
what the treatments that I had back in 2008 are a night and day difference. And so to have all the stem cells in one injection was,
which is kind of what they talked about in Pittsburgh years ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
which was it was a much better process, and the clinic was just breathtaking.
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 It was for country people.
Wow. I've never been in such a.
It was nice. It was fancy.
Yes,
Nice.
beautiful. You wouldn't know it was a clinic.
So let's speak about Thailand. What is you've been here 1 week. I know you've done excursions, you've done some shopping, and you've seen the Grand Palace. Tell us about your first impression of Thailand as a country, and maybe the people and the overall vibe you're getting.
Well, the people are great. Taking a bath with an elephant was awesome. You know what? This is going to sound really corny, but one of the first places we went to was the Grand Palace, which I'm kind of glad because we do believe in energy, right? And so it was nice to be in the country with the people because we had Nat with us. So we were not only we were here, we were, like inside the heart, I feel like, of the city. We got to go to the Grand Palace and we went into the Emerald Buddha. And it was nice to go in there and just kind of, for me, it was like to say a little prayer and set the tone for the trip. And I felt like that helped bond me to Thailand. But I'm just kind of weird that way. But I feel like I wanted to pay the respects to the country and to the people because we are here, and let's make this be a cohesive treatment. So it's kind of corny, but that's what I feel. That's what I believe. And so I think that helped just set the tone for the trip for us, was embedding into the culture and the people right away.
Yep, I would agree.
What are your expectations in terms of improvements or in terms of outcome of your trip?
Every trip that I go, I try not to go with expectations because you never know how much you're actually going to get. You always hope for the most, and that's been successful every time. I've gotten more than I thought I would. But I think, at least for me, I feel it's important not to go with expectations of what improvement I will get, and I'm just happy for anything. So yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Maybe finally, do you have some comments or remarks for our audience? I'm sure we have perhaps people that do have a visual impairment watching, or maybe we have parents watching that do have a child or children with optic nerve hypoplasia or other ailments watching. Maybe a word of encouragement or motivation. What would you tell them?
Can I go first?
I would say, as a parent, don't give up hope. Do your research, ask questions, and take that risk for a better life, because you could have a better life, a better quality of life, I guess is what I'm saying. I think what hit me the most was after, it was pretty hard when the optometrist looked at me and said, she's going to drive. That settled in. But it was the first time she took off in her car. She was walking out, had her keys, and I said, well, enjoy your freedom. And she turned around and looked at me and she said, no, Mom, you enjoy yours. And just that right there, I knew that she felt so much better about herself and she had her own independence. So just knowing what it did for her mentally and emotionally was worth any heartache that I would have taken on just for her to have a better life. So I'd be like, don't be afraid to try to find something that could help your child have a better quality of life. And do your research, and don't be afraid. It'll be okay.
Yeah, I would agree that doing your research and trusting your gut too of what's right for you, and talking with people has always been huge. Connecting with other people, hearing their stories, that's even helped us a lot too. Talking with people where they've gone, and for me, I wanted to drive and have some more independence, but for somebody else that could be something different. So I think just knowing what you're going for, know why you're coming, which kind of keeps that hope going of inspiring and continuing and traveling and continuing on.
Or any neurological disease.
Yeah.
Or disorder or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I
it's
think
worth looking into because nothing,
I think for me, that was what I kept always like, why do I want to get more? I'm able to drive right now, but
nothing will happen if you don't do anything.
Nothing will happen, exactly. Nothing will happen if we don't do anything. And so I think it's so healthy for your body as well, even if you don't have a disability. And so I think taking care of our bodies is, and having this opportunity has been very inspirational.
Well, you two are inspirational. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Henning.
I'm sure the audience appreciates it as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've learned how to do that.
Yeah.